I should have stayed with James. Choosing you was a mistake I regret every single day. You're boring, Dustin. You're dead weight. You're just a paycheck and a place to sleep. James was more of a man in one night than you've been in 3 years of marriage. You are nothing compared to him. Nothing. She said all of that looking directly into my eyes. No trembling. No hesitation. Like she'd been storing those words in a drawer somewhere, waiting for the right argument to use them. My name is Dustin Carter. I'm 32 years old. I'm a software engineer. I grew up in a trailer park in rural Ohio with a mother who worked double shifts at a diner and a father who spent every Friday night at the bar chasing a music career that was never going to happen. I learned early, before I even understood what I was learning, that the loudest person in the room is almost never the most powerful one. My father was loud. He was magnetic and funny, and everyone loved Gerald Carter at a party. He just couldn't keep the lights on. He couldn't keep a promise. He couldn't keep anything. So I became the other thing. Quiet. Steady. Dependable to a fault. Amanda called that boring. She was standing across our bedroom, mascara smudged from crying she'd done before the crying turned into this. Into an indictment, into a verdict. The fight had started over dry cleaning. It had become something else entirely. Something that felt rehearsed. I stood in the doorway and I let her finish. Every word. I didn't interrupt. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't flinch. When she was done, I nodded once. Then I turned around, walked out of the bedroom, and pulled the door closed behind me with the quietest click I could manage. Because my father always slammed doors. And I was never going to be my father. I sat down at the kitchen table with a glass of water and I just listened. Not because I was waiting for an apology. Not because I thought she'd come out of that bedroom a different woman. I sat there and listened because I already knew what was coming, and I needed to hear it happen in real time to make sure I wasn't the one losing my mind. The night before the fight, Amanda had left her iPad on the kitchen counter while she went to the gym. It was unlocked. Her messages were open. I wasn't snooping, I was walking past it on my way to make a sandwich, and I saw his name before I could look away. James Ortega. 3 weeks of texts right there on the screen. I miss how you made me feel. Dustin is so predictable, I'm suffocating. And James, on his end, giving her just enough warmth to keep her reaching. One word here, a voice note there, the emotional equivalent of dangling a string in front of a cat. I closed the iPad. I made my sandwich. I sat with it for 24 hours and didn't say a single word because I needed to be sure. I needed her to show me who she was without me forcing her hand. She showed me. Through the bedroom wall, I heard her voice shift. That specific shift. The one where Amanda stopped being angry and became soft and slightly breathless. She was calling James on speakerphone. I could hear both sides clearly. She told him she was done with me. That she needed him. That she'd made a mistake choosing stability over what they had. There was a pause on his end. Then James Ortega, club promoter, leased Escalade, 2 restraining orders he charmed his way out of, the man my wife had been comparing me to for 3 years, said flatly and without cruelty, which somehow made it worse. Amanda, why are you calling me? You're broke, you're dramatic, and honestly? I was bored. That's the only reason we ever happened. The call ended. Silence from the bedroom. I opened my laptop. I want to be clear about something. I didn't open that laptop in anger. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't running on adrenaline or heartbreak or any of the emotions you'd expect from a man whose wife just told a different man she wished she'd chosen him instead. I was calm in the way that you're calm when you've already made a decision and you're just executing it. I logged into our joint account and transferred my portion. Clean, legal, precise. What most people didn't know, what Amanda certainly didn't know, was that the joint account was never the whole picture. I'd had a private investment account since I was 22. Index funds. A small rental property in Columbus I'd bought before we ever met. A 6-month emergency fund I'd kept separate because Amanda had a pattern of spending to the ceiling of whatever she knew we had. I wasn't hiding it to deceive her. I was protecting a future she hadn't earned the right to dismantle. I changed the passwords on every streaming service. Small thing, but intentional. Then I pulled up the lease agreement for our apartment on my screen and read the top line the way I'd read it 100 times before. My name. Only my name. A detail Amanda had never once cared to verify in 3 years of living there. I drafted the text carefully. Read it once. Send it. Amanda. I heard everything, both tonight and everything you said to James last month on that iPad you left open. I'm done. The apartment is in my name. You have 30 days. Don't call me. I blocked her number. Then I sat back in the chair and did something I hadn't done in longer than I could remember. I exhaled. Fully. Slowly. Like something that had been sitting on my chest for years had just quietly gotten up and walked out the same door I had. The apartment had never felt so still. The stillness felt like mine. I found out later what happened after she read that text. Her friend Dana told mutual people, and it eventually found its way back to me the way things always do. Amanda read the message twice. Then she called me. Blocked. Then she grabbed Dana's phone and called from that. I'd set unknown numbers to go straight to voicemail that night, not out of pettiness but because I knew how Amanda operated when she was cornered, and I wasn't going to spend the next 4 hours being worn down on the phone. So she got in her car. She drove to James's apartment complex on the east side, the one with the broken gate that he'd complained about to management 6 times according to Amanda, who used to tell me those stories like I was supposed to find them charming. She buzzed his unit. What? Twice? 3 times? 4. His voice came through the intercom. Flat. Slightly annoyed. I have company. Don't come here again. That was it. No explanation. No softening. Just a man who had already moved on to the next woman before Amanda's car had even cooled down in his parking lot. She sat in that parking lot for 47 minutes. Alone. In the cold. In the car we'd bought together 2 years ago, that I'd co-signed for because her credit wasn't strong enough on its own. I think about that moment sometimes, not with satisfaction but with a kind of clarity. Amanda had spent 3 years of marriage measuring me against James Ortega. She'd been using him as her standard of what a real man looked like. And when she finally ran toward that standard with nothing left to lose, the intercom clicked off in 4 seconds. James Ortega was never competition. He was a cautionary tale she had to live through herself before she could understand that. She just didn't know yet how much living through it was going to cost her. 3 days after everything collapsed, I was sleeping better than I had in 2 years. I don't say that to sound cold. I say it because it was the truest indicator I had that something had been wrong for a long time, that my body knew before my mind fully admitted it. The tension I'd been carrying in my shoulders every night, waiting for the next version of Amanda's unhappiness to arrive, was just gone. I'd wake up at 6:30, make coffee, sit in the quiet of the apartment, and feel something I hadn't felt in years. Like myself. I was at my desk on the 3rd day, headphones in, deep in a code base, when my coworker Marcus stopped by and slid his phone across the desk without saying anything. I pulled out one earbud. On the screen was a text thread with his sister. Her name was Abigail Monroe. She taught 3rd grade at a public school across the city. I'd met her once, at Marcus's birthday barbecue 2 years earlier before any of this. We talked for 45 minutes about a book on financial psychology she was using with her students to teach them about patience and delayed gratification. I'd walked away from that conversation thinking she was one of the most quietly interesting people I'd encountered in years. And then I'd gone home to Amanda and said nothing about it, because I was married and I was loyal, even when loyalty wasn't being returned. The text on Marcus's phone was dated 2 days before the blowout fight with Amanda. Did something happen with Dustin? He seemed off at your birthday thing. I still think about our conversation. Is he okay? Abigail had been wondering about me before any of this unraveled. I stared at the text for a moment. Then I handed the phone back to Marcus. He said, "She's been asking about you for 2 years, man." I put my earbud back in. But for the first time in 3 days I wasn't thinking about code. 3 weeks out, Amanda appeared in the lobby of my office building. I heard about it first from the receptionist, Carla, who called upstairs with the careful, neutral tone of someone trying not to get involved in anything personal. She told me a woman was at the front desk claiming to be my wife, asking for 5 minutes. Carla waited. I said, "Please ask her to leave. She's not my emergency contact. She's not my wife in any meaningful sense anymore. If she won't go, call security." There was a brief pause. Then Carla said, "Understood," in the same tone she used when handling difficult vendor calls. Amanda was escorted out. Not dramatically. Not harshly. Just firmly, the way you remove something that doesn't belong somewhere without making a scene about it. She sat on the building steps for 20 minutes afterward. I know because Marcus walked past the window and mentioned it casually, not realizing it would land the way it did. I didn't go to the window. I want to explain something about that choice because it might seem cold and I need you to understand it wasn't. If I had gone to that window and looked down at her, something in me would have felt responsible for what I saw. That was the pattern Amanda and I had lived inside for 3 years. She would reach a bottom and I would look down at it and feel like it was mine to fix. I was done living in that pattern. Her pain was real. I didn't doubt that. But her pain was the consequence of her own choices, and I was no longer available to absorb it. I went back to my code. The screen reflected in my glasses. Outside, eventually she left. Inside, I kept building something. I was always building something. That was the thing Amanda never understood about me. Stillness wasn't emptiness. It was just where I did my best work. Amanda called her mother from the parking lot of my office building. Her mother, Linda Reeves, was a woman I'd always respected. Quiet, observant, the kind of person who watched everything and said only what needed to be said. She pulled me aside at our wedding reception and told me Amanda was more fragile than she appeared, and to be patient with her. I'd taken that seriously. For 3 years I'd taken it seriously. Amanda expected sympathy. She laid out her case. Dustin was cold, Dustin had frozen her out, Dustin had changed the locks on her life without warning, Dustin was never spontaneous or exciting or present in the way a husband should be. Linda let her finish. Every word. Then Linda said, "Amanda, that man paid your car insurance for 3 years and never once mentioned it when it lapsed. He sat with you in the emergency room at 2 in the morning when you were scared, and he didn't complain once. Not once. You called him boring? Baby, you confused boring with safe. And you just set fire to the only safe thing you've ever had." Amanda didn't respond. Linda wasn't done. "And James? The man who threw your phone at a wall and told you that you were lucky he even looked at you? Don't call me about James, Amanda." The line went quiet for a long time. What Amanda didn't know, what I only found out much later, was that Linda had known something was wrong for years. She'd seen it at the engagement. When I proposed with my grandmother's ring on a Saturday morning over coffee on the balcony, Amanda had cried and said yes. 2 hours later, on FaceTime with a friend, Amanda had held the ring up and whispered, not quietly enough, "It's small but I mean, he's sweet." Linda had been in the room. She'd said nothing then. She said everything now. 6 weeks after the text, I went back to the apartment to collect the last of my things and get my key. I knocked. I didn't use my key to walk in. That detail mattered to me. It wasn't my space to enter unannounced anymore, even if my name was still on the lease. Amanda opened the door. I want to be precise about what I saw because it wasn't what I expected and it wasn't what I wanted. She wasn't performing sadness. She was just tired. Genuinely, visibly tired in the way that only happens when you've been running from something and finally stopped. The apartment behind her was beginning to slip. A stack of unopened mail on the counter, the plant by the window dead and brown, dishes in the sink that I recognized as ones I'd bought. She started talking before I could say anything. "Dustin, I made a mistake. I know I did. I was angry and scared and I said things I didn't mean and I am so sorry. I love you. I've always loved you. James was a monster. I was nothing with him and I was everything with you and I didn't understand that until now." I let her finish. Every word. The same way I'd let her finish in the bedroom 6 weeks earlier. Then I said, "You meant every word, Amanda. You looked me in my eyes and you meant every word." She started to speak again. I walked past her to the counter, picked up my key myself and turned around. She said, "So that's it?" I said, "That's it." I closed the door behind me. Quietly. The same way I'd closed the bedroom door 6 weeks ago, with the same measured pull, the same deliberate stillness. Some people think closure is something you find. I think it's something you make. I made mine at that counter with a key in my hand and nothing left to prove. I sat in my car outside the old apartment building for a few minutes after that. Not because I was second-guessing anything. I want to be clear about that. I sat there because I was doing something I'd gotten better at over the past 6 weeks, actually checking in with myself. Asking the quiet question, "How are you?" and waiting for an honest answer. The honest answer was that I was okay. More than okay. I was standing on ground that felt like mine for the first time in years. I picked up my phone and texted Marcus. "Can I have her number?" He responded in 4 seconds. Just 10 digits. No caption, no commentary, no emoji. Just the number. Marcus understood things without needing them explained, which was one of the reasons I valued him. I looked at the number for a moment. Then I called it. Abigail picked up on the first ring. Not breathless. Not surprised. Just present. "Hey, Dustin." Not, "Who is this?" Not, "Oh my gosh, hi." Just easy and warm and completely unperformed, like she'd been expecting the call the way you expect something you've quietly hoped for without letting yourself say it out loud. I said, "I hear you teach third graders about money psychology." She laughed. It was the kind of laugh that had no agenda behind it. "I heard you actually read the book," she said. Marcus told me. I almost fell out of my chair. We talked for an hour and 40 minutes. I sat in that car outside my old apartment building and talked to Abigail Monroe about books and teaching and the particular loneliness of being the responsible one in every room, and by the time I looked up, it was dark outside. I drove home feeling like I was headed somewhere, not just away from something. That was new. 2 months later, on a Saturday morning, Abigail and I went to the farmer's market on Crestwood Avenue. It wasn't a planned-out date. It was just a Saturday. She'd mentioned the market the week before, something about a vendor who sold honey she used in her classroom during a lesson on bees and ecosystems, and I'd said I'd come with her. Simple as that. I was carrying her canvas bag. She was laughing at something I'd said about a pyramid of heirloom tomatoes that looked architecturally ambitious. We weren't performing happiness. We were just in it, the way you're in a room without thinking about the fact that you're in a room. Amanda was there. She'd come with her new roommate, a woman she'd met on a Facebook housing group after the apartment situation resolved itself and she had to find somewhere else to land. They were browsing a bread stall maybe 40 feet away when Amanda looked up. She saw me first. I never saw her. I know this because of what she told Dana later, and what Dana eventually told someone else. Amanda said she stood completely still in the middle of that market for 60 seconds. She watched me adjust Abigail's bag on my shoulder. She watched Abigail touch my arm lightly to steer me toward another stall. She watched me look at Abigail the way, and these were Amanda's words, not mine, the way I always wanted him to look at me but thought he wasn't capable of. Then Amanda turned around and walked back to the parking lot without buying anything. She called Dana from her car. She said, "He looks happy, Dana." Like actually genuinely happy. Like I was never the point. Dana, to her credit, didn't say I told you so. But I'm told she wanted to. 3 months after I closed that apartment door for the last time, a text came through from a number I didn't recognize. I almost deleted it without reading it. I'd gotten a few of those. Once from a number I was pretty sure was Amanda using a Google Voice account, once from someone I think was Dana trying to broker something on Amanda's behalf. I'd developed a habit of not engaging with unknown numbers at all. But something made me open this one. Maybe instinct. Maybe curiosity. Maybe I just knew. It was long. Measured. Nothing like the Amanda who had screamed at me in our bedroom. This was someone who had sat down, written something, deleted it, and written it again. She said she wasn't texting to get me back. She wanted me to know she understood now, not in the surface way she'd understood it when she was standing at my door asking for a second chance, but in the deeper way. The way that only comes after you've sat alone with yourself long enough that you can't blame anyone else anymore. She said, "You were never the boring one. I was the one who didn't know how to be still. I grew up thinking love was supposed to feel like an emergency. You felt like peace and I didn't know what to do with peace. I hope she's good to you. You deserve it." I read it in full. Twice. Then I sat with it for 30 seconds. Not out of indecision. Just out of a quiet respect for the fact that it took something real to write those words. Then I deleted it, placed my phone face down on the desk and went back to the code on my screen. Not out of coldness. Out of the clearest possible understanding that there was nothing left to say, nothing left to fix, and no version of that message that changed anything about the life I was already living. Some doors you close once. That's enough. It's a Sunday morning. The apartment is clean the way I like it, not sterile, just ordered because order is how I think. Coffee is made. There's music playing at a volume low enough that you can still hear the building settle around you. Abigail is at the other end of the couch with her feet tucked under her, reading something for her classroom, occasionally making small notes in the margins with a pencil she keeps tucked behind her ear. We're not talking. We don't need to be. This is the thing I never had with Amanda and didn't know I was missing. The ability to be in a room with someone and feel more like yourself, not less. Amanda's presence always carried a current of low-grade anxiety. What mood is she in? What did I forget? What am I not being enough of today? I'd normalized it so completely that I'd mistaken the anxiety for love. I'd confused the relief of her being okay with genuine happiness. My phone buzzes. A notification from my investment account. The Columbus rental property just renewed its lease at a higher rate. I read the number. I feel a quiet, private satisfaction. I don't say anything to Abigail about it, not because I'm hiding it, but because I don't need to perform my wins for anyone anymore. Amanda is working double shifts, living with 2 roommates she found online. James Ortega has a new woman, someone younger who doesn't yet know about the restraining orders or the lease escalate. The mutual friends who'd watched our marriage up close quietly stopped reaching out to Amanda one by one, not out of cruelty but because, as Linda once told someone, Amanda exhausts the people who love her. I think about what she said to me that night. I should have stayed with James. Choosing you was a mistake. And here's what I know now, clearly, without bitterness. I wasn't the mistake. I was the standard. I was the bar she set without meaning to, the measure of what a man who actually shows up looks like, what it feels like to be chosen by someone steady, what safety tastes like when you're not afraid of it. The tragedy isn't that she lost me. The tragedy is that she knows exactly what she lost. She knew it in that farmer's market parking lot. She knew it when she wrote that final text. She knows it every time she splits a utility bill 4 ways in an apartment she never planned to be in. I didn't win by getting revenge. I didn't need to. I won by being exactly who I always was. And I finally found someone who understood what that was worth.